Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We are ready to start our meeting. If you could please take your seats. Welcome. Thank you. Mr. Weber, if we could have roll call, please.
Mr. Damachia.
Yes.
Mr. Fellis.
Present.
Mr. Smith. Present. Mr. Sturgill.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here. The student-led Pledge of Allegiance.
Board President, Vice President, Board members, Dr. Bram and Mr. Weber. Tonight, we will have Riley Sand, second grade student from Helen Steiner Rice Elementary School, to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Riley is the daughter of Robert and Roberta Sand and has one sister, Bailey, who is an 8th grade student at Southview Middle School. Riley plays youth baseball for Lorain. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Riley, thank you for your leading us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to present you with the Certificate of Appreciation. Thank you. I would like to bring up Bailey Sand. Bailey Sand is an 8th grade student at Southview Middle School and will be presenting items collected by Lorain City School students to the Genesis House tonight.
Genesis House, Domestic Violence Center. What is abuse? Abuse is a pattern of physically and emotionally violent behaviors that one uses to exercise power and control over another. Abusers may use verbal insults, emotional abuse, financial deprivation, threats, and/or sexual and physical violence as a way to dominate their partners and get their way. Genesis House, their mission: to provide a comprehensive range of family-focused services for Lorain County victims and domestic violence. Such services provide the tools to maximize their opportunity to survive, obtain physical and mental well-being and independence, and minimize the trauma involved in coping with family violence. We endeavor to be part of a collaborative community effort to provide a responsive system of care for victims who will be raising awareness. Most people who live in a home filled with parents, siblings, and love. When I think of home, I think of my mom, dad, and sister, a home full of love, laughter, hugs, and kisses. It's hard for me to imagine a family that lives with abuse on a daily basis. It is important to know that there are shelters willing to dedicate their time they have towards those in need. The Genesis House is the link that provides our community with compassion and comfort. Through the support of Lorain City Schools Administration, the following schools participated in a collection of donations to help support the cause of awareness of the Genesis House: Southview Middle, Helen Steiner Rice Elementary, Longfellow Middle, Toni Morrison Elementary, Frank Jacinto, Lorain High, and the Academic Enrichment Academy. Donations of money, clothing, toiletries, and baby items were collected. Thank you for participating and the continued support for our community.
Good evening, Board President, Vice President, Board members, Dr. Branham, Mr. Weber, and guests. I'm very happy to be here tonight for 3 very special presentations. First, I'd like to call up Jackie. Come on up, Jackie. Yep. And Sunny. Sunny and Jackie have been with Lorain City Schools. They're ending their 3-year term here as our guest teachers from China. They will soon be returning home. And in appreciation for your time and dedication to Lorain City Schools, We wanted to present you with this plaque, and it reads, "Thank you for your dedication and service to the students of Lorain City Schools. Your commitment to Lorain City Schools has enriched the lives of the many students who are fortunate enough to know you. With deepest regards and thanks, Lorain City Schools Board of Education and Dr. Branham." Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Next, I'd like to call up Sarah Walker from the State Support Team Region 2. Sarah is the Senior Director for Special Education, and she's here tonight to present a very special award as well. Every year, the State Support Team sponsors a awards program for special education teachers that enrich the lives of students with disabilities. And I'm very happy to announce that a team was submitted this year by Stephanie Alexander Johnson, the principal at New Beginnings Academy, and Sarah is here to present that award.
Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. The Region 2 State Support Team each year seeks nominations for an Outstanding Team Award. The purpose of this award is to honor the collaborative general and special educator teams who have made outstanding contributions by improving access to and progress within the curriculum for children and youth with disabilities. Ms. Akavan and Ms. Cooper were nominated by New Beginnings Building Principal Ms. Alexander Johnson. I'd like to call each of those individuals up at this time, please. Ms. Alexander Johnson looks incredibly eager to be coming up here right now. Award committee members observed this team and saw the impact these caring and dedicated individuals had on the quality of their students' lives. Ms. Akvan and Ms. Cooper are definitely making a difference. This is why the awards committee created the Making a Difference Recognition Award to honor these special educators for their tireless efforts. These teachers were observed to have established a very comfortable rapport with students who were previously unsuccessful in their traditional classroom settings. Through the efforts of Ms. Akvan and Ms. Cooper, these students are able to participate in integrated units that focus on the state standards, apply their knowledge to real-life experiences and scenarios, and build positive character traits through the practical experiences they have with the teachers and the other students. These two teachers act as dependable role models for these students, which encourages them to make progress both academically and socially. I am honored to bestow upon Ms. Akvan and Ms. Cooper the Region 2 State Support Team Making a Difference Award for the indelible impact they have had on the students within their classroom. I have a plaque for Ms. Alexander Johnson to display proudly in her office. And I have a certificate for both Ms. Akvan and Ms. Cooper.
Thank you everyone. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to call up Mark Morris. Mark is a 5th grade student in the gifted program at Admiral King Elementary School. No, I'm sorry, Hawthorne. I did that earlier, sorry. Hawthorne School. And Mark is here tonight for participating in the Young Authors Conference, which we participate in every year. And he won, as a 5th grader this year, the 2012 Best in Show for his story, which is a great accomplishment. But that's only half the story. Mark also won Best in Show last year as a 4th grader at the Young Authors Conference. He's the only student to win this award twice in all of Lorain County. Very impressive. So we have for Mark a little memento just to recognize his achievement as Best in Show 2 years in a row. Congratulations. Thank you.
It has also been brought to my attention that Mark Morris he's continuing somewhat of a legacy. I believe his mother is a teacher. his grandmother a teacher, and great-grandmother was a member of the school board. So we have great expectations for Mark in this distant, not too distant future. Congratulations, sir.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I did forget that. Thank you. Mark's parents are here tonight, Chris and Kristen Morris, if they would please stand. I'm sorry. And also his teacher, Michelle Baraback. Thank you.
This time, if we could have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve minutes from last meeting.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Fallis.
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Demakia.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes. As I was expressing to some of my colleagues, I think this is my most nervous board meeting as a chair. And we recognize our guests who are here, and we recognize by your shirts and your solidarity, we appreciate your being here. The next part of our meeting in our old business, we're going to bring a guest to make a. He has some words he would like to share with us, and this is somewhat unprecedented in that generally we don't have this in terms of what I've observed over school boards, this kind of dialogue with the leadership of the teachers union. We're very intentional in terms of how we've staged this dialogue. This is not posturing, this is not a challenge, this is not confrontational. So we've chosen not to use the podium because we want to somewhat diminish some of that tension that might be in the room. As the chair, my responsibility is to the board. It is to facilitate the meetings, to make sure that communication occurs between board members, and to represent what the board desires, not my viewpoint, but the board's viewpoint. And in doing this right here, it is, some board members are not in favor of this, some are. And so I apologize if there's any offense taken, but this is about having a healthy dialogue. There will be no recommendations coming from this point of our meeting. There will be no decisions made. We are in a very, very unique new place for the district that has enormous challenges. And we have to be able to have dialogue and discussion as it relates to these challenges, yet not have a big drama. Emotions are high. It's very challenging for the public, for teachers, for administrators, and for this board. So it is out of respect and appreciation that we are having this moment right now. Mr. David Wood, would you please come forward? Mr. Wood and I, as Mr. Wood and the superintendent, we've had some previous conversations to this meeting, or to this conversation. Please be seated, sir. And it's all ready for you. Sure. Be comfortable. Understood, yes. And I appreciate the board in its indulgence in the administration. We have no lack of confidence in Dr. Branham, nor Mr. Weber, or his administrative team. The way in which this board takes action is based on recommendations from those individuals, and we have no intention on deviating from that. We do appreciate that Mr. Branham is open to dialogue and discussion, and this is perhaps just part of that. So again, to the board, thank you for your indulgence. And this will be brief. We will not have a lot of comments and back and forth dialogue, but we wanted you, Mr. Wood, to have the opportunity to state a few things to us before we move further in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've prepared a handout and also copies of the words that I'm going to speak this evening. Okay? I would like to thank the superintendent, Dr. Branham, and the Board of Education for this opportunity to make this presentation this evening. It is well received and respected. First of all, I want to echo some things that Mr. Williams said. I am sitting in this arrangement on purpose. Tonight is not an adversarial confrontation. It is more of a formal discussion between the Board of Education and the LEA, and this seating arrangement to some degree symbolizes this formal conversation. The Student-Centered Recovery Plan does 4 essential things. It provides an opportunity for children to get a good education. It allows us to remain competitive against charter schools. We remain competitive against charter schools by focusing district dollars on students and classroom instruction. This is dollars in the classroom. It promotes equality and fiscal reductions. And if people would go to the handout has 4 pages and 4 parts. Page 1 is the current recovery plan. Page 2 is the teacher's assistance in overcoming the district's fiscal problems. Page 3 is the student-centered recovery plan. And page 4 is the benefits of the student-centered recovery plan. On page 1, the LEA is formally asking the Board of Education to direct the administration to begin immediate and further discussions on the recovery plan. As you look at page 1, you can see what is commonly thought of as good education has been slashed. Perhaps not gutted, but severely wounded. On page 2, the teacher's assistance to overcome district's fiscal problems. A quick look on page 2 shows the teachers have made between $3.5 and $3.8 million worth of assistance to help alleviate the district's fiscal problems. This is no small contribution. Also, I wanted to remind all of the tremendous efforts teachers have made to help pass prior levies. While not slighting anyone who has helped in levy campaigns, it's easy to see who has been counted on to get the job done. On page 3, you can see much of the current recovery plan is contained in the student-centered recovery plan with 2 major differences. The first major difference is equality and fiscal reduction in classroom instruction and administrative expenses. The second major difference identifies 2 possible resources of revenue, 2 new possible resources of revenue. An explanation is called for at this point. The student-centered recovery plan calls for a 15% reduction in administrative expenses. This means administrative expenses for the Charleston Center and administrative expenses outside of the Charleston Center would be reduced by 15%. Classroom instruction would take an equivalent fiscal reduction through 15 teachers retiring and not being replaced and a reduction in force of 13 teachers. This is fiscal reduction equality. Everything else in the estimated savings is similar to the current recovery plan. Two new possible sources of revenue are additional enrollment of 101 students, which is the same number of students we lost this year. It is suggested the district hire a student recruiter whose sole job is to find students who have left the district and bring them back. This person needs to knock on doors and persuades those who have left to return. Little else will work. The second source of new revenue is a tax-deductible venue whereby faculty, staff, administration, friends, neighbors, and businesses could make tax-deductible contributions to the district to assist in deficit reduction in a number of ways. It's an idea that needs to be explored, as colleges have done this for years in endowment fundraising. The student-centered recovery plan has a deficit equal to the current recovery plan deficit, but the student-centered recovery plan keeps those things that are important to student learning. The current recovery plan has a $4.7 million deficit, and the district will run out of money to pay bills next year. When that happens, the district will most likely fall into fiscal emergency and probable state takeover. It seems of little consequence exactly when the district goes into fiscal emergency, whether that's March, December, or September. Therefore, the student-centered recovery plan suggests declaring fiscal emergency sooner rather than later so that the district can secure fiscal emergency advance, because that allows the district to save critical elements necessary for quality education. On page 4, the Student Centered Recovery Plan keeps the important things students need. It would keep full-day kindergarten. K through 6 art would be maintained. K through 6 music maintained. K through 6 library. A valuable AEA would be maintained. Most sports and most clubs also maintained. Classrooms would not be overcrowded. That would leave us with 459 teachers for approximately 7,500 students. In the Student-Centered Recovery Plan, children have an opportunity for quality education. We, as a district, maintain quality education system to successfully compete with charter schools. It responds to the frequent community criticism that Charleston has never cut. 15% administrative expense reduction. We would have highly motivated employees to help pass a desperately needed November levy. In light of all of this, the LEA requests the Board of Education direct the administration to begin immediate and further discussions on a recovery plan with all employee groups participating. Thank you very much, and just wanted to recognize the teachers that came this evening and thank them for their participation in being here. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. At this time, we would entertain a hearing from the public. Any individuals who wish to address the board, we ask that you please come to the center podium. We will provide a microphone for you. You will be given an allocation of 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that you be polite and respectful and that you expect the same in return. Are there any? We will also have another hearing of the public later in the meeting if you so desire to have comments then. Hang on, Ms. Sand, we're going to bring that microphone out to you. You can probably just hit the stand right on the, you might be able to sit the stand right on the podium there. Okay. And as you come, please, after you've made your comments, there is a sign-in sheet at the podium to my left, your right, and you can put your name, address, and so that we can have further communication with you. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Robbie Sand. I'm sure everyone knows me by now. It comes as no surprise that many families will be removing their children from Lorain City Schools to attend the alternative schools with the assistance of the Ed Choice scholarships. This is a very tough time for everyone. Parents are taking into consideration that 108 teachers were cut, children will be placed in larger classrooms, and individualized attention and direction will become limited, thus hindering learning and growth of our children. Along with these concerns, let's add in the fact that art and music will be eliminated, and music and art are essential for our children to express themselves as an individual and also to discover who they really are. Those reasons alone are enough for me to pull my youngest from Lorain City Schools and enroll her into St. Peter's, which offers everything I just mentioned. It is a combined effort of the parents and the Board of Education to provide the education we both are seeking to provide our children. At this time, my oldest will remain in Lorain City Schools until her graduation. I wanted to bring to light a rumor that has surfaced and I feel requires an explanation. Rumor has it that after all the layoffs were announced that the Charleston building will be receiving a 1% raise. Now, I do not know if this is true, but if it is false, I feel that clarification needs to be made to the community as soon as possible. This here is a prime example of why levies do not pass, because it shows no apathy for the individuals who just lost their jobs while others seem to prosper from the recent layoffs. Speaking on behalf of myself and other concerned parents, the perception of the Charleston administration stands on solid ground with stable jobs. Personally, I question the layoff of teachers versus Charleston administration. Why would you lay off the most essential, hands-on, direct conduit to our children's education when it seems only logical to lay off Charleston staff who who does not have that direct link or impact in our child's education. The Board of Education, parents, and administration work hand in hand. Communication is the key in building great relationships. Let the first move begin with being heard, provide honest answers, and working in conjunction to achieve the same goal, education for our kids. As a concerned parent, I will continue to provide my thoughts, my ideas, my concerns, and solution, and I encourage other parents to stand up and speak out.
Thank you.
Dear Dr. Branham and board members, my name is Abby Carrington, and I live at 843 West 29th Street. I am a 4th grader at Lorain King Elementary. I was a student at Lakeview for 6 years. I am a straight A student. I participate in many other clubs and activities at my school. I play the viola. I am learning sign language. I had a piece in the Georgia O'Keeffe Art Show this year. I also did a piece on Martin Luther King for a poetry slam on Literacy Night this year. I was an Oompa Loompa in the Willy Wonka musical. I play travel softball and travel basketball. I'm really a busy girl. Most of the time, my mom thinks I'm a pretty great kid. I recently got a letter in the mail telling me that next year I have to go to my home school, which is Washington. I don't want to go there, and my mom doesn't want me to go there either. She says I have to go to St. Peter's next year, but I love my school, my classmates, and my teachers. I don't want us to split up. When my mom told me about the letter, I really didn't understand. But that is why I'm here today. There are some things that I do to understand because my mom has taught me about money and other things. I know that our schools don't have enough money for everything. I know about the levies that failed. I know about the teachers and others who are losing their jobs. I know that my mom cares about our city because she grew up here too. I know that my school has an effective rating on its report card. I know how hard my teachers and my classmates have worked on attendance and OAA tests so that we can have a great school. I know that a lot of the kids at my school are not at their own school. I know that my education is the most important thing in my life. I'm also pretty sure you didn't have to send us back to our home schools because of money. Dr. Branham, you are taking my art, you are taking my music, you are taking my teachers. What I don't understand is why you're taking my schools too. Can't we keep something? Thank you for listening.
Thank you. That was very articulate and took lots of courage. And you're a great example for your peers. So again, thank you for your comments. At this time, we have a report and recommendations of the treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. 4 items on the agenda this evening for the treasurer's report. The first one is the approval of the April 2012 financial reports. Item 2 is the purchase orders over $3,000 and require board approval. Item 4 are donations, and item 3 is the item that needs approval, which is the 5-year forecast. I have a short presentation for this evening, very short. The 5-year forecast is due every May and October, and we've been actually showing the 5-year forecast the last few months. You're going to see in the end it really hasn't changed that much as far as deficits go. But just some key assumptions. It excludes a new money levy. The 5-year forecast on the pertinent line number cannot include a new money levy. The reduction in force that we've been talking about the last few months has been incorporated. A key one for revenue is there's something called personal property tax reimbursement. At its peak, Lorain City Schools was receiving about $5 million a year in personal property tax revenue. After this year, and it was being phased out the last 4 or 5 years, the state of Ohio was giving a reimbursement. After this year, that reimbursement is gone. So our personal property tax revenue will have gone from about $5 million a year to about $700,000 a year. And that's replaced by what's called a CAT tax at the state of Ohio level. Districts don't see that in a district-by-district basis anymore. And the last thing is the health insurance cost increase, assumed 7% per year per employee enrolled in a medical plan. The fund balances, the key line is line 10.010, and those numbers are very, very close, if not almost exact, to what we've been shown the last few months. $4.7 million deficit in 12-13, and it's growing by about $4.5 million into next year, and then it grows $2 million a year. What that means is the expenses exceed the revenues by about $2 to $4 million still. We still haven't filled that gap yet. Revenue balances are in a slight decline mode, $86.1 million this year, 84.8. You can see that drop off is because of that personal property tax reimbursement falling off, and it's kind of holding steady as the years progress. The expenses are $91.5 million forecasted for this year, and forecasted the reductions you can see are starting to fall off as the years progress. What's the next steps? What happens next? We'll submit the forecast to the Ohio Department of Education by the end of the month. And because we have that deficit sitting in fiscal year 12-13, the ODE will send us a request for a financial recovery plan. They normally give you 60 days to respond. The district needs to provide a recovery plan or be placed in fiscal emergency after analysis and confirmation of the deficit by the auditor of state.
I would strongly suggest that the trust perform a new actuarial audit or actuarial study, because with the loss of the teachers, with the loss of all of our employees, it will tend to be younger employees leaving, older employees with tenure and seniority staying. And in health insurance, the factor that determines a rate is called morbidity, whereas in life insurance it's mortality, and health insurance it's morbidity. I have a very concerned feeling that the trust board or what have you has to relook at that and plug in the new numbers, because it might end up that we have more than a 7% increase, because when you lose the older, when the older people stay and the younger people leave, it's going to change the claims ratio.
Great point. Yep. We'll talk to those folks.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
With that being said, I recommend for approval items 1 through 4 on the agenda.
Motion for approval?
Second.
I'm sorry, I was asking for one. So will you first it, Bill, and then somebody else second it?
Okay, motion to approve.
Support that motion. Second that motion.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
I certainly want to thank the people who made these donations. I mean, all donations are appreciated, but some of these are pretty sizable, and it really benefits the children. I'm sure the children are appreciative of this, especially at this time of the year when they get to go places and do things that, things that are fun. So thank you to the donors.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Fallis?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. And at this time, from Dr. Branham, if we could have the report and recommendations of the superintendent.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. President. Under personnel items this evening, we have 5 items. Item 1 is to consider approval of discontinuances of certified and support staff. There are 4 employees there. Item 2 is consider approval of new appointments. Item 2A are non-certified staff members. These are replacement positions with no increase to the general fund. This is a result of the reorganization of the Technology and Information Department, and this is actually a cost savings to the district through this reorganization. And obviously, we'd like to look further into those kinds of things to save the school district and the general fund money through reorganization. 2B is students that we need to employ for summer help. As everyone is aware, we have some major movement of furniture and equipment and supplies that need to be taken care of over the next 2.5 months. And these are students. We normally do this every year. It is not a general fund expenditure. Item 3, I'm asking for approval of leave of absence for a paraprofessional, teacher, personal attendant, and a cleaner. Item 4 are supplemental contracts that we're keeping for the next school year. These are head coaches, and the athletic director will bring forth some additional supplementals over the next few months in regard to those sports programs that we are retaining. He cannot bring them all at once because of the reduction of force. Some of these employees do not know what building they're going to be placed in if they remain on our staff. Obviously, some of the RIF personnel are looking for positions outside Lorain City School District and may not be able to commit to a supplemental. So these 5 right now are committing to the supplementals. Obviously, they're all head coaches. We know that those people will be back. So I recommend supplemental contract approval. Item 5 is the under miscellaneous items. We have a certified staff member that has been recalled from the reduction in force, Mr. Bill Levy. This was due to an arbitration settlement. I move to approve recommendation personnel items 1 through 5.
Motion to approve.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
There's a motion. I need a second, please.
Second the motion to approve items 1 through 5.
Any discussion, gentlemen?
Pardon?
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Fellows?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Thank you. Under operations matters, I'm pleased to recommend approval of a lease agreement with the Boys and Girls Clubs for New Beginnings, the old Lowell School. This is the same lease that we had last year. I recommend approval of operation matters, item number 6.
Motion to approve item number 6.
Support.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Fellows?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Abstain.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes, and I think, did I hear correctly, Mr. Demakia, there was a abstain?
Yeah, I abstained from voting on that. Item 6, due to employment.
Thank you.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Continue. Thank you. Under other operation matters, item 7, the county superintendents work hand in hand with Lorain County Community College and Dr. Church, the president of LCCC. We met on several occasions. The end result of this meeting was a countywide consensus for raising educational attainment and fostering college readiness for all high school students. This resolution is to affirm our stance and our commitment for further sharing of services and a commitment for partnerships. Item 7 is a resolution to affirm the college readiness and degree attainment in Lorain County. Item 8 is a resolution for the adoption of freezing wages for non-represented and non-certified employees of the Lorain City School District. This, again, is an effort to address the deficit situation of Lorain City Schools. I recommend approval of other matters, items 7 and 8.
So can we separate 7 and 8?
Yes. We have a motion for item 7.
Well, we have to redo my motion because mine was for all of them, so I'll just remove my motion.
All right, Mr. Smith has removed his motion, and I am making a motion for the approval of item 7. I need a first.
Motion to approve.
I'm sorry, did you make a motion to separate first, right? Is that
No,
what we
his
did?
motion is to vote on just on item 7.
Yes, just to vote on item 7.
Okay.
We have a first from Mr. Sturgill. Is there a second? We need a second. The motion is for approval of item 7.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion?
We're just voting on item 7, that's all. Okay.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
I thought you made the motion. Doesn't matter. Yes, it does. All right. Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Abstain.
Mr. Fowles?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes. We now need a motion from someone to approve item number 8.
Motion to approve item number 8.
Support motion to approve item 8.
Discussion?
I just wonder, will the financial impact on this have any change in the reorganization plan?
If you recall, when we renewed these non-represented administrators or employees, technically, and we rolled over the contracts, at that time I explained that there would be no salary increases or wage increases, and therefore in the salary grid and step increases, some of these employees were entitled for a step increase, and in order for us to not allow that to happen, the board must take action to freeze wages for non-represented and non-certified employees within the Lorain City School District. Mr. Weber, I think that whatever's been budgeted on those salaries that were approved for the 2-year rollover were included in the budget for next year, correct?
Actually, I had budgeted a 0 increase.
Okay, thank you.
You know, this may tie into what Mrs. Sand just said, and she said maybe that was her rumor, and I noticed that she had left, but this may have addressed the very thing that she talked about a person getting a % raise, and too bad she left. I hope somebody notifies her.
Oh, she's
is she here? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I seen you walk out. Oh, okay.
If we can call this to vote, please. Roll call.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Fowles?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. New business. Though we don't have formally any new business that we had planned, we've had some discussion, and there are a few things that Dr. Branham, Mr. Weber, I'm not sure exactly how we engage them. One of the things that we're looking at, and we've talked about, Dr. Branham, is beginning to engage in some strategic planning and looking at significant restructuring of the district. We have addressed many of our fiscal issues through deficit reduction. Perhaps the only place to address our real fiscal issues are in a extreme, almost version of a restructuring of our district. There is potentially a lot of dollars to be yielded, but again, when you're trying to reduce a deficit, it's a short-term fix. And we have some long-term problems because we have to reduce the cost of operating. So if we could begin that. The other piece that from the board we would like to begin to formally indulge your staff in is how we're going to address our marketing of the district. From every perspective in our community, there's no disagreement that we need to have a strong marketing plan. We have to compete with our educational competitors that we once didn't have. And so we would expect that you would come back to us with a plan to address that. We know that we were making some headway with the employment of Mr. Carter. He's no longer employed with the district, and he was doing some great work in terms of marketing the district. And so we want to make sure that there's that we address that issue. Let's see, what else was I going to ask? The other piece, I think Mr. Fallis had mentioned earlier on when we had the gentleman from discussing fiscal emergency, and there was some discussion of a program, of a performance audit. And I think, and correct me, General, if I'm not correct, there was the discussion that perhaps based on our present condition, we might be eligible for the state to actually pay for that performance audit. So Mr. Weber, what would we need to do? Is there a certain thing that triggers that, or is there a request that we can make where they would assess based on what our forecast is? Because anytime we're going to be looking at, I think, strategic planning, that would be probably a very valuable tool. So I don't know what the prerequisites of that are, but if you all could formally begin to look at that and then bring back some kind of informational report, FYI, or recommendation to the board on how we proceed forward on those things.
Well, are you looking for a motion on that?
No, that was just more of a direction, I think.
Well, I do want to follow up on the presentation tonight by the LEA, and I have learned some things that I think really do need to be taken into consideration before we completely reorganize the district. And so whether we need a motion or not, I would like to follow up on the request of the LEA and ask that Dr. Branham and Mr. Weber relook at everything, put into place the ideas that came forth tonight. They may or may not work, but there's no reason they need to be looked at, because I will tell you now, and Mrs. Sand pointed that out, the young lady pointed that out, the student. If we go through with this plan, to quote Mr. Demakia at the last meeting, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. People are already, I've already talked to, I have talked to a number of parents who have already decided that they're moving their kids. And if we do not, and the other thing, especially on the half-day kindergarten and the fine arts and music, if we take fine arts and music out of our elementary school, 6 years from now we won't have a high school band. So we will save money there too, because we won't have a high school band. Kids are artists, whether it's music, art, what have you. A lot of times they're inspired in the second grade or the first grade or the fifth grade. And if that's gone, then they're either going to be gone. And I can tell you right now, I talked to a parent the other day who had just enrolled her child at a charter school. And the day after, she was there to make paperwork out. When she got home from work, there was a bag on the door welcoming her and her child, complete with a big cookie was scripted on it, welcome 2012. And all the programs and things. We got a heck of a task. And there, as I said to you when we had breakfast the other day, I guess I can't say the restaurant because that'd be a club. Well, maybe they'd give us money. Bob Evans, I turned it over to the children's menu. And I said, do you think if Bob Evans was having a revenue problem, they'd remove the children's menu from the adult menu? I don't think so. Any more than I think McDonald's would cut their menu, they'd find other ways. And the best way I know of is to bring back the kids. So I don't know if it's an emotion that's needed. I'm willing to make a motion.
I don't think we need a motion. I think from...
Well, I do need that. Then I do need an affirmation that what I'm asking for will happen without a motion.
Yeah,
You open to that?
And before
Well,
Dr.
I will review it, yes. I mean,
Before
I think
Dr. Branham
I think
comments.
that's all they're asking us
Right.
to do.
Yeah, we had the conversation prior to, and I think Mr. Woods would reflect this, that we wouldn't be making motions, but we have every intention on having dialogue and discussion. It is the administration, what I expect is that they are always reassessing and reallocating, but in this case specifically, doing that in some piece of a collaborative dialogue. So I don't think that there needs to be any motion. I think the direction is, I think Dr. Branham understands clearly what the expectations are, and we can move forward from there.
And when do you think we might have the benefit of, by the next board meeting, which is, what, 3 weeks? Did that be enough?
What I don't think is reasonable at this stage is, first, we have a commitment that with urgency, we're going to have conversations. Sticking in artificial deadlines and dates.
Well, I found out one thing. If you don't tell people when you want something done, it never does get done. So I want a date.
Well, what I'm, again...
Let me rephrase it. If I have to make a motion, I will. But I would like to hear at least a preliminary report back by the June 14th board meeting. Because otherwise, we'll be in 2017 and still tossing it around. So is there a possibility that we could bring back, and I would suggest this, rather than having, I would suggest that a group of employees, no one knows this system better than employees, that there should be some employee non-management employee representation. There was a famous, I'm just going to bore you a little longer, there was a famous experiment in the 1930s by Westinghouse Electric in Pittsburgh. They went to their employees and they said, we're experiencing revenue loss, expense increase, and what we're going to do is determine whether the environment of the workplace has anything to do with productivity. And this experiment's going to go on for the next couple of months. And we'll be measuring productivity. We're not going to tell you what we did. The first week, 2, they made it so cold in there. They made it so cold in there that it was unbearable. But guess what happened? Production went up. The next week, they made it so hot it was unbearable. Production went up. The next week, it returned to its normal environment. Production went up. Management, in their esteemed wisdom, couldn't figure it out. And so they called the employees together and they said, we don't know why production went up. We made it colder, we made it hotter, we let it remain the same, and still it went up. Can you tell us why? You know what the employees said? They said, we thought that the purposes of it went up was to make it go up. And we didn't care what you did to us, we were going to make it go up. And that's what happens when you get employee involvement. So I would hope, if possible, that those ideas are looked at. I'm really intrigued by the community fund, because we know people do that every day. Mr. Weber, it's hardly any meeting you don't bring a report to accept donations, is there? And we haven't even asked for much. I really think we can go out and raise $500,000. I've already got a hit list. You're all on it too. So, but I'm not going to be comfortable without a motion unless we have an agreement that by the next board meeting there will be some feedback. Is that everybody comfortable with that?
No, I'm not.
Well, then I make a motion.
Excuse me.
No,
May I speak?
No, excuse me.
I have the floor, sir. I'm going to make a motion to instruct the superintendent to review the ideas presented tonight and report back to the board by the 14th of June. That is a motion, Mr. President.
It's too early.
Let's,
It needs a second. Is there a second to my motion?
Well, I'll second that motion with a comment.
Fine. Now we can have discussion.
With a comment, our district is at a crossroads. And I'd like to see some movement on this. Now, Dr. Branham, we'd like to see you move on that. Now, if 2 weeks aren't enough, let us know the progress.
If there's a motion for you to do it, sir, you'll have to do it.
is this discussion?
Let me explain.
Can I have a motion to table the motion?
Motion to table the motion.
Roll call vote on tabling the motion.
Is it a second?
There was a second.
Who seconded it?
Mr. Demakia.
You know, I think Dr. Branham was going to make a statement, and I don't think he got to make that.
Right, the statement will be made right now. There's a motion to table, so there's no discussion when there's a motion to table. After we've tabled it or not tabled it, we will entertain the discussion. There's a motion to table. We need a roll call, please.
Motion table is Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Demakia?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Motion to table.
So it's
Yes
a
or
roll
no?
call vote on the motion to table.
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
No.
Mr. Fallis?
No.
And at this time, again, before Dr. Branham comments, we said with clarity what the action would be, and it would be to discuss this. We will not impose arbitrary, unreasonable, undiscussed deadlines.
You're speaking for yourself, so please
yes,
do not use the word we.
Excuse me, I won't use the word we. I will refer to the comments that I made prior to Mr. Wood's statements, and nothing has changed from there. The intention hasn't changed, the integrity hasn't changed, but the placement of a deadline for discussion or for resolution has not. We expect, with full expectation, that the administration does that. And at this time, Dr. Branham had comments that he would like to make. We will now...
Mr. Williams, you do not speak for this board.
I am speaking for
Unless
myself.
there's a resolution, that's the law in Ohio, in case you're interested.
Okay.
No one can speak for a public body in Ohio unless the body passes a resolution appointing them as a spokesman.
That is understood.
So you may speak for Mr. Williams, and I honor that.
I appreciate that, Mr. Smith. Dr. Branham.
For 10 months, this board has directed me and the superintendent, or the treasurer, and my administrative team at Charleston to present a plan to find ways to reduce $12 million deficit that this school district is facing. I've put in probably 60 hours a week and weekends. My team, I told you 2 months ago that we are well over 1,000 hours, man-hours, of working on this recovery plan. If you expect me, as your superintendent, and this treasurer, and my team to come back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, when it took us 10 months to present a plan to this board, and every board member sitting at this table voted 5 yes votes to adopt this plan. Now, it will take me and this team and the treasurer, all of these figures that were set forth tonight have not been validated, and I can tell you there's some big inaccuracies here on these projections. This treasurer has spent an ungodly number of hours, and I can tell you, and I can confirm that he's working Saturdays and Sundays. Of all the requests that we've had, this is an unbearable task to do in 2 or 3 weeks. And frankly, I am not up to that type of task. I don't think Mr. Weber, I don't want to speak for him, and I don't think that my administrative staff is up to this task. I will review it. I certainly cannot make recommendations to this board in regard to changing the entire recovery plan that we've been working on for 10, now going on 11 months. That's my statement. I'll do whatever the board directs me to do. That's my job. I will bring forth recommendations to add to the recovery plan. I do not think that I can have those items for you by the next board meeting.
Thank you.
Well, just remember, Mr. Branham, and I commend you for your work, I heard some things tonight that apparently you didn't hear.
I heard them.
Maybe, no, not till tonight you didn't. Maybe if when you go to review this, you can lighten your load by letting the people who are directly affected by it, including maybe some parents, to sit down and look at things.
You know,
I'm just going to finish real quick, Bill. Perhaps you've heard of the Constitution of the United States. People spent a long, hot summer in Philadelphia, and yet they never completed their job. That's why we have amendments, including the Bill of Rights.
I just want to say, make a comment. I can't take a recovery plan, and I appreciate what David Wood and the LEA did and what they offered, and I've seen some good things in there, and I hope Dr. Branham does take it on review, but I myself can't look at something for 20, 25 minutes and make a judgment or a vote on that. I mean, I just don't have enough, I don't have enough information. Okay, I just don't have enough information to you know, throw the baby out with the bathwater. But I hope Dr. Branham looks at this, and I hope something, you know, maybe something else will come out of this. Okay, maybe. I mean, there's no doubt. I would love to see kindergarten brought back. I mean, I think kindergarten is so important. And that's where children first enter our district. Okay, there's nobody sitting up here who doesn't want that. We want the same things that you want. I guess the question is how we go about it. But I mean, I can't look at this plan and give it an affirmative vote without getting a lot of information and a lot of data to back things up. Okay, I just wanted to explain that. Thank you.
Mr. Demakia, please.
Yeah, Mr. Williams, if I may. I just want, make no mistake, I'm all for a collaborative effort, Mr. Wood and the non-representative as well as the representative employees of this district sitting down with Dr. Branham and Mr. Weber and trying to come up with options to continue to educate our kids. Let's not forget what we're doing here. We are trying to continue to offer a quality education to all our kids, and I'm as pro-teacher as anybody. I got reduced in force from this district several years ago. I know what it does, and I know what it does to the classroom. I get that. But again, this is the first time I've seen this plan. I was aware of the conversations occurring, but certainly this is not the proper forum to conduct this process. I'm all for Mr. Wood and his people to get with Dr. Branham and Mr. Weber and to come up with a plan to fix this district. But let's not forget, you know, this isn't something that occurred overnight. This isn't a very easy plan to come up with. Dr. Branham and Mr. Weber, I thought, did a great job because you have to come up with a plan that is not going to massacre this district. And I understand we have to market the district. You can't market the district if you're constantly, every year, laying off teachers, you're cutting programs, you're cutting from the classroom, you're cutting this, you're cutting that. You can't market a product that isn't going to be there. We haven't passed a levy in this school district in 20-some years now. Let's not forget, this is not just about us. And I've said this before. We have a slew of problems with public education. At some point in time, some board of education, maybe it's us, some superintendent, some treasurer has got to put their foot down and start fighting legislation on how they fund public education. It can't continue to massacre public education. And I heard somebody speak about the Ed Choice Voucher Program. I am not a fan. Whatever that means to any parent out there, I'm not a fan of the Ed Choice Voucher Program because people manipulate the system and it forces a financial deficit on this district because of it. And it costs our children in this district. The Ed Choice Voucher Program, charter schools and how they are funded and how all that whole system works, that needs to be restructured. If we don't go to legislation and start fighting legislation, the problem is nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to step up and fight the same people that are funding our school systems. Well, at some point in time, somebody's going to have to. You know, we can sit here and beat each other up over this district and cutting this program and this plan and that plan. It's not going to stop until somebody actually does it. And it can't be just one. Somebody's got to spearhead this process, get other boards of education involved, get other superintendents involved, and somebody's got to have the guts to take on legislation and change this process because we're going to continue to do this. Believe me, it breaks my heart. When I listen to the young lady up here, I think her name was Abby, I think, you know, it breaks my heart listening to that because that's what it's about. You know, you see all these teachers in here. I don't know how many of them got cut from this district. Every time I look at this agenda and we got to cut somebody, almost 65% of them I know. I've either worked with them, I've known them all my life, I taught with them, I coached with them. There is some kind of relationship with somebody on this agenda all the time. It kills me. Nobody likes doing it. This is not an easy process. I think they did it as good a job. We have bad options. We don't have any good options here. They're not going to get any better. So I'm all for the collaborative effort, but again, this is not the proper forum to do it. And I need that to be very clear. You know, we have people, if we want to be the superintendent of this school district, we're in the process of looking for superintendents. Go apply. That's not our job. You know what I mean? We have good people trying to get it done. And I applaud Mr. Wood for trying to come here and give a collaborative effort and sit down with us. It's going to be a process. And it might be a little longer than we'd like it to be. Nobody's happy with that, but it has to be done right. And you know, again, it has to be clear. I mean, we're not in a very good situation here. And let's not forget why we're here. It really is about the kids of this district and continue to educate them, continue to giving them fine arts and continue to giving them the athletics and the things that are going to refine them and make them good citizens of hopefully our community and keeping them here. That's why we do what we do, and I hope that nobody forgets why you sit up here because you have a tough job to do, and if you lose that, we're in trouble.
I'd like to say that when we did meet with Dr. Church and all the educators at Lorain Community College, I probably embarrassed Mr. Branham a little bit because I stood up and I said, well, you know, we was doing these things on education, on the suggestions and stuff. I says, well, my group, we solved the funding problem. And I said, decided that we would have the Attorney General arrest the legislature, lock them up, give them a phone call. They could say, call their wives and say, honey, I won't be home tonight. I may not be home tomorrow night. You know, but I mean, I got a good chuckle out of it, but I was dead serious. I mean, I'm with Mr. Damaki. I think it's high time we start putting some pressure on our legislatures and make them fund it correctly. I mean, we get a lot of unfunded mandates, and it's just not fair, not correct, and it's not conducive to good education, especially for Lorain.
Mr. Fallis, please.
You have a comment. There's a president, his name was JFK, John F. Kennedy, said, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. We have a serious problem in Lorain City Schools. $12 million deficit. Dr. Branham and his team have put together an effort to reduce that. Some people have come forward today with some alternative ideas. I say, I ask you, I challenge you, your area of responsibility, I ask you, what can you come and bring to the table to reduce that deficit? Don't point to that group, don't point to that group. Whatever union, whatever non-bargaining people, the administrators, Charleston, I challenge you to come to the table and bring what you can offer to reduce that deficit so we can continue to educate the students at the same staff level and the same number of students and bring students to the district. That's a game changer. I challenge you to do that. Thank you very much.
And And as we, because really what we've done is we've gone into our committee reports and requests from board members. We kind of segued into that, which is okay. We're going to have, I think we had one committee, actually we've had two committees who've met since our last meeting. The Facilities Committee has met, and the Superintendent Search Committee has met. What I'm going to ask is Mr. Smith, he has a brief report from the Facilities Committee. Please, if you would, sir.
Yes, we had a meeting, and we have been assured that the project is moving forward. The architect has been instructed to continue the design phase of the building. We are still hoping to have a groundbreaking ceremony sometime in September. On a lighter note, a marvelous thing happened on Mother's Day at the former Admiral King when about 2,300 people showed up, reminisced, probably looked where they hid all the things they didn't want teachers to find. Fortunately, no commodes were blown up by firecrackers, which was once an experience in the building. And one of the really high notes to come out, and I don't know, and Jeff, you did a lot of work on that. So one of the high notes are Titan Enterprises, the first junior achievement program we've had here in I don't know how long, wanted to have one more chance to sell their wonderful book, The History of Lorain Schools. They sold 130 copies that day at $25 a copy. And they've done so well, and these kids, Dr. Branham, are so excited. They have decided that out of their profits, they're going to donate $500 to the, I think it's Brian Anderson fund. I think he needs a, and they felt like they were part of the world. They felt, as what Mr. Fallis was talking about, ask not what somebody can do for you. And it's just a marvelous thing that goes on in our schools, and we got to let people know it.
Mr. Fallis, please, from the Search Committee.
Yeah, and happy to report on the Search Committee. We met last week, and we're moving forward on our search. We've completed our brochure to send out to the community to have folks apply for the search. We told a little bit about what the district's all about, what our city's about, the financial situation over the task district. I think we sent out 2,300 brochures. We will be having on June 12th and June 13th public meetings. And we are seeking the input of the community to help us select our next superintendent. What are we looking for? We're looking for what the community thinks is the top issues in the community, how we should address those, and the professional and personal qualities of a superintendent. What we're going to do with that information is we're going to assemble that and use that when we critiqued our final candidates. We will be coming out with some more information at the time and locations of those public meetings. And personally asking you as chairman of the search committee, if you are aware of a organization, let's say the CHIP organization, we're asking you to contact, if you would contact Dale Weber. What we like to do is get a hold of someone in each one of the social communities in Lorain and ask them to help us invite people to come to our meetings. We're interested in hearing what the citizens of Lorain want for the next superintendent. So if you could do that, that would be great. Applications are due by June 18th, and the selection interview process will be starting after that. We have a hard-working group of seven folks on the committee, and I really appreciate all their efforts, and I'm looking for you to help us as well. Thank you very much.
What kind of timeline are we looking to start interviewing?
Applications are due after the 18th, so I would say shortly thereafter that. Like within a week. Yes.
Mr. Sturgill, you had I think there's something happening for some of our students. You want to?
This isn't exactly an athletic report, but I do want to mention that we do have some students who are going to state in track. I mean, our meetings are Thursday night, and so are theirs. So I get my information through the paper like everybody else does. But I'm glad that I recognize some of the names, and I'm real happy for the athletes that are going. I wish them well.
And for some final comments, again, this is very challenging time, and we appreciate and understand the tension and the anxiety that exists. We don't want to undermine that. But also, Dr. Branham and Mr. Weber and their staff are putting forth a very diligent effort, and what we won't do is diminish that or undervalue that. What happens in the context of some of these meetings is someone says something and there's a lot of applause. And that's good, that's positive reinforcement. But sometimes the difficult decisions that are made that are unpopular, they don't get an applause. And I can appreciate us having differences on the outcomes, but we value and we appreciate all of the effort. And I want, from me as a board member and as a chair of the board, not speaking for the entire board, but to let Dr. Branham know we appreciate the work that he and his staff is doing. And it's a very difficult place to be, and I don't want you to leave this meeting with the last impression being something that, that though it's emotional, people feel that way, to feel that you're unappreciated. And that's very important. It might be symbolic, but it's very important that you feel like you are appreciated and the work that you do is recognized. We have a lot of work going forward, and the deficit reduction isn't the end of our fiscal woes. So continue your work. We have expectations. We've been clear on those, but your work is appreciated, sir. And with that, the announcement of our next meeting, second hearing of the public. Again, the same rules apply as at the onset. We don't need that, Mr. Weber. No. Please, ma'am. Microphone, please.
She does need a microphone.
Dale?
She knows the time. She can feel 3 minutes.
Take her this one, too.
When you start feeling, if you don't feel the 3 minutes, just look up here and we'll say.
Mr. Damaki, I do have a question that I'd like to ask you. I understand that you feel strongly about not doing the Ed Choice scholarships, and I was the one who actually brought that up to you this evening. My question is, if you had children or a child in the district that the Board of Education, or not even just the Board of Education, but those fine arts were taken away from your child, which you feel is definitely essential in their growth, how would you get your kids to gain that, I can't even think right now. How would you get your kids to take those classes in a school district that does not provide them? How would you do that without using the Ed Choice Scholarship?
You know, I get your point, and I do understand. I do have children in the district, and these cuts do affect them as well. What happened to the old days? I mean, I have no problem with taking your child to another district or a charter school or a private school, but why do we have to pay for it as a public school system? That's the problem I have with it. And people, and it's not everybody. And again, maybe there's good intentions around those types of initiatives by the state government, and I get that. But more people than not manipulate the system. And I'll give you a real good example, okay? I had a relative call me about applying for the Ed Choice voucher, okay? and she thought that I could maybe make a call and expedite the process and maybe get her child eligible for the Ed Choice voucher. And a question I asked, I said, well, how long has he been in the district? About a month. I said, and you're applying for the Ed Choice voucher, why? Well, because I can't afford to send my older kid to Elyria Catholic and I can't afford to send him to St. Anthony's at the same time. That's the problem with the Ed Choice voucher system, the manipulation of that type of program, and more people do it than not. And that is why I don't agree with those types of programs, because they are hamstringing public education. You know, same thing with the fact that we have to transport children to other school districts because they live in our district. If you choose to take your child to that district, for whatever reason, I respect that, then you should be able to find a transportation, or that school district should have to transport them. There are a lot of things, and those things add up. And at the end of the day, we have to cut from our children in this district, and we have to cut our teachers, and we have to cut our custodians and our help staff and everybody in this district, because we're feeding our money to other school districts. We're feeding it to charter schools. So, you know, and I get there may be good intentions behind it, and I understand your point, but that's why I strongly disagree with those programs.
At this stage, thank you. And again, I think Mr. Damaki would be happy to talk with you afterwards, or I, or someone else. And normally we don't have the response, but I appreciate your doing that, Mr. Damakia. And Robbie, we appreciate your questions, because sometimes people can get a little bit more informed on what's happening by these little dialogues. So at this stage, I think we're at the stage where we should announce our next board meeting. And I think based on school being ending, it would be the recommendation to move the meetings from now on through the summer to Charleston, room 33. And can somebody tell me what the date of the next meeting is? June 14th, 6:30 p.m. at Charleston, room 33. And may I have a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Support. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Fallis?
Yes.
Mr. Damakia?
Yes.
Mr. Damakia?
Yes.
Mr. Sturgill?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes. Thank you.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools TV 20 WLCS.
To purchase a high-quality copy of the program you just viewed, please call Lorain City Schools Television at 282-8400.